Welcome to Yeshiva Daf. We're holding in Chulin Daf Chof. We're starting that Yechezkel base, 4 lines to the bottom of the. Says the Gemara, Amri b'nei Abchio, Mitzvahs Meliko. So we just mentioned the Mishnah, the idea of Meliko. What is Meliko? Meliko is when you have to cut the bird in Beis Hamikdash, you do it from the back. It has to be from the back of the neck. Says the Gemara, Machzis Simonim La'acharei ha'oyev. He brings the Simonim back to Ma'acharei ha'oyev, which means he puts it behind the neck. So the simonim are the breathing tube and the veshet, the eating tube. You bring one of them in the back, behind, you pull to the back and you cut it.
I'm not shaking by him, but it's possible.
Yeah. Ikadamre af machzir, ikadamre machzir davka. Machlekes doesn't mean that you have the option. You could bring the simonim behind, or you don't have to bring the simonim behind. Or you must do it this way. Says more mistabel kevan domar af machzir. You could if you want to. You might. Niktanya sheichet min ha'oyev shchitas b'suloi. Hamolik min ha'oyev because of sheiru. We said shchita from the back doesn't work. Malika does work. Says more dav chavun dalev. Sekadat and machzir davko. If you bring the simonim to the back, ma'ir your moelik for the sheichet namin. As we saw in the Mishnah, this is something that we didn't emphasize enough yesterday. We have to do shchita from the front of the neck. The Mishnah says the first line of the Mishnah is you can do from the side too. Why can you do from the side? So Pshat is you can bring the simonim to the side and do it over there. As long as I'm cutting the simonim before causing death to the animal, it's okay. So if I'm telling you the miliko, what I'm doing is I'm taking the simonim from the front and pulling it to the back, so why can't I do for shchita the same thing? Why it says shchita cannot be done in the back? Elamai, you want to tell me miliko in the back means even if he didn't bring the simonim backwards. And as we'll see in a moment, what did he do? He broke the neck. Breaking the neck kills the animal. Kills the bird. By Meliko, that's how you're supposed to do it. So I'll tell you, by Meliko, that's how you do it. But Shechita, if you did this way, you kill the animal before you got to the Simon. Says the Gemara, Ela Shavino, Av Magzir. So it's optional, we don't have to do it. Umastisi that says you should not do it, but lo yad. So this was Meir B'chio that says you move the Simon if you want to, according to the Maskana. So Aviana, they will get their answer, meaning there's a problem with what they said. The last line of the Mishnah was that whatever is kosher b'shchita is possible b'meliko, whatever is possible b'meliko, kosher b'meliko, it's either or. What does this rule come to teach you? Meaning, to tell you that this does not work. So you tell me, by shchita, if I bring the simonim backwards, it's kosher. By Melika, no, you're not supposed to bring the simoni backwards. You should break the neck first and then reach the simoni. Says the Gemara, that's not coming to exclude that. So what are you coming to tell me? Lemuti shen v'tziporin. Coming to speak about a tooth and a nail. So according to this gear saws, Rashi puts out tooth is not a gear because it doesn't make a difference. Can't use a tooth, not for Melika, not for shchita. But we're talking about tziporin. Tziporin, meaning a nail, cannot use for shchita. But for malika, how do you do malika? You use the nail. So that's the difference between shchita and malika. That's one gear. So the other gear, so Rashi, is tziporin v'sakin, and a knife. Malika, you don't do with a knife, you do with the hand. So you want to tell me, it's coming to tell you, shchita is not like malika, malika is not like shchita. What way? Shchita requires a knife, malika, you can't have a knife. Malika requires the finger or the nail, and by shchita you don't have it. So that's clearly, we learned in the Mishnah, you can use connected shen and tziburin. To tell you that the way you do shchita is you go back and forth with the knife. Melika, no, it has to be straight down. It says, that's good, very good. This Mishnah works well if you hold that you don't do melika maybe by melika. We're going to say there. So the more Bnei Abchio Savri look at Mandomar Moilich maybe Meliko Apostle. Bnei Abchio Nechram, that's what they hold. So that they can explain the end of the Mishnah, that's what the Mishnah is going to tell you. The Meliko does not work unless you have straight down without going back and forth. But if you did Simoni to the back, that's fine. Omavkan. Mitzvahs Meliko, Koitzitz, V'yori V'zumitzos. So you don't go back and forth, you go straight down. So what happened to me? My coit says for your redeem, Moilich Moivi. It's going to tell you don't do Moilich Moivi. I'm not having a coach cut the Moilich Moivi Melika Kasha. If it works by Shchita, Shwigah Melika. I mean, you don't have to do Boin L'Chabevi, but you could do. So that's the discussion. That's a machlekes we mentioned before.
What's the first lashon where it says consider in Boin L'Chabevi? What's that extra? How does he explain that? That extra word is v'zuhi mitzvasa. That sounds like.
Meaning that's the only way to do the mitzvah.
Right, but it already started with saying mitzvahs. It said mitzvahs, and then it adds in v'zuhi mitzvasa.
Meaning it's going to emphasize it's this and not something else.
Mitzvah usually doesn't mean la'akev. It sounds like it's usually.
Meaning it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you do it that way. It's not. The other gear says it's a little more doichak. So mitzvah av zui mitzvah. Whatever is kosher b'shchito, so b'melika it's kosher and the other side. So Rashi says obviously it doesn't mean exactly like we just said because we have a few things that are kosher in the shchita that are posel meliko on the other side, like we just mentioned a knife. But we're talking about the area. Where do you do shchita? So in shchita you do in the front, meliko you do in the back. How posel b'shchita? Posel meliko. So whatever does not work with shchita doesn't work with meliko. Limute by what come to exclude? Ilimilimeita limute ikur simonim. And you tell me by shchita, if you move the simonim from its place, you have to check the simonim. If you move the simonim, so then it doesn't work. There's a big machlekes Rashi and Be'ag why it doesn't work. Rashi learns that the animal becomes treifa. It says our Gemara proves not like that because we'll see that if it's treifa, so it's already treifa once you move it. So the Be'ag says not treifa, but that's the Gzeras HaKasov. That shchita can be done only in its place. When you're moving the simonim, like taking it out of place, you can do even though the animal is not treifa. But anyway, it says over here, I want to tell you maybe that's something that if you move the simonim, so by shchita, by shchita and by melika they both apply. We all there's no such thing as moving the simonim by yoif. So we don't have. We're talking about by melikas by yoif. So we're not talking about that. Coming to exclude the head, meaning you have the shecht in the neck. And melika is in the back of the neck, not the head. We learned yesterday in the Mishnah, mul orpa means the neck, across from the back of the head, not the back of the head. Meaning you're starting from the angle of the head, not balash the top of the head. When the head starts to go up, you start from there. Meaning he went in an angle. Until you reach down to the neck. You start from there. Rashi brings another pshat that it means you're starting in an angle. You can't do the head straight, but if you start the head going to the angle, it should be okay. Similar idea. So by shchita, if you start outside and go back in, it's possible. The same thing by melika, if you start outside, when inside, it's possible. You hold that by you can moving the simonim from its place, not a problem by oif. That only goes to the old. There's no such thing as shchita b'natayr. Meaning the Torah never mentioned shchita b'oif. So where does it come from? It's with their bottom. We'll see the Beis Hashem in the next parak, parak Sheni. The shchita is their bottom. So Yibel is their bottom, and therefore he says he moving the simonim doesn't do anything. Let's just finish the sentence over here. Mandova that says the shechting is minatayro. Yes, ikur as also ikur is a problem. What do you say?
Yeah, with made mizbeach and what is doing a shechita? I don't understand.
The mizbeach is miliko. Only miliko of mizbeach. But outside of the mizbeach, if you're doing it at home, minatayro you can just kill it. Minatayro. That makes sense to say the opposite. Meaning, if the Torah is the one who tells you how to do shechita by oif, so you could say the Torah told me oif is different than behema. Behema, if you move the simonim, no good. Oif, if you move the simonim, is good. Hi, it says, it was quoting that says kebehema. It's a kebehema for other things, not for that. Maybe tell me it's not minatayro. So Rabbanon, so to speak, made up a shechita by oif. So why you change your behema? By Behemoth, if Rabbanan are, so to speak, making up something that doesn't exist, so you want to compare it to what exists. So if you have a din of Behemoth, the Behemoth, the din is that it's kosher. The Behemoth equals to one is a problem. So when I'm making up a shechita b'ayif, I would say the same halachas. So I'll do it. If you do it right, so I can tell you that Torah somehow told you, halacha Moshe Sinai, that you don't have a problem equals to money. If it's in their bottom, they should compare it. So Wama Avino, Amar Li Rabin Barkisi, Hadatani Ryan Yechezkel, Ein equals to money b'ayif, Lo Yamor and El B'Meliko. If there's no equals to money, that's only by Meliko. By Meliko, I don't have a problem of moving the Simonim. But I don't care so much with the Simonim. Aval b'shchita yeshiko. By shchita, when you have to do a regular bird and you do shchita in front, you must have the Simonim there. V'amar v'yim v'amar Shmuel kol ha'kosher b'shchita keneg d'boyev kosher b'meliko. Ha'pasul pasul. We just learned that we compare the two. So you tell me equals Simonim is not a problem by Meliko, so it shall be a problem by shchita and vice versa. So the Gemara Upliko. That argues. You're right. It's a machlekes. It's machlekes if equals Simonim is a problem by shchita or not. Okay. Omaziri nishbar amafrekas v'roy baso imo nevelo. So you should know one of the simonim of nevelo of an animal. If the neck broke, the mafrek is the neck with roy baso, meaning a big piece, chunk of meat went with it. So the neck broke and a chunk of meat of the neck broke. The roy baso, the roy of the meat around the neck. Then the animal or the bird is treif. And then it's nevelo. Sorry, then it means the animal is basically died. He died from it. He didn't die from shchita. We learned this. Right? If person did melika, but instead of using his finger, he used a knife. No good. So then what is as a din? As a din of a nevelo. What happens to a nevelo? A bird nevelo, it has a special tumor called tumas v'godim beisabliyot. So when he eats it, it makes a tumor. There's no tumor by touching it, but it's touching by eating it. But if you hold that when you break the neck, it doesn't become nevelo, it's not considered to be dead. It's just straightforward. It's a sick animal. It's not a dead animal. So melika is the shchita for the bird. So why you tell me the knife doesn't work? You want to tell me he didn't do it the right way. You should have done it with a finger, you did it with a knife. Okay. But why does it make cause tumor? You did the wrong way, so it died. It's a trait for you. You made it sick before you killed it. But it's not a velo. Why should it cause tumor? You see, from here it is an velo. When you break the neck of the bird, it becomes an velo. Says more no. No, if you do it with a knife, it's not pshat that you did shchita but not the right way. You didn't do shchita at all. My timer, because the problem chaloda. What is chaloda? Chaloda means, we'll see, chaloda means it's one of the issues that you have by shchita, which is, let's bring this in the Zoom because it's went off. One of the issues that we have by shchita, it's called chaloda. Chaloda means the Pashup Shah, the Rashi takes you argue the exact details, but the idea is that of chalado is that you stick the knife into the middle of the neck. You're supposed to cut the animal from the edge and go down. If you do chalado, means you're sticking in between the bones and you're killing that way the animal. It's different than hagroma. Hagroma is basically hagroma is almost the exact opposite. Hagroma is you start in the right place, but then you're going in an angle, leaving. Here you're starting from the middle. So he says, the reason why I can't use a knife because it's machlit. What does it mean machlit? Meaning I'm going to get stuck in the middle. Look at what Rashi says. After the bones were moved, the knife goes between the bones because when you're doing it. So it's the bone is in the neck. There's a few bones over there in the back. So when he goes in with a knife, it's not going to cut the bone in half. It's going to make a hole in the middle, and that's why it's a problem. But today he says a little differently. He says that you shech when you do it this way, you're shechting the simonim from bottom to top. That's called chaloda as well. Okay. Rava says the problem is a different issue. Drisa, what is Drisa? You're not going back and forth. What is Moil Chumevi is going back and forth. Doiris is going in one shot. If I have to take the knife and cut the bone, I'm doing it in one shot. So why didn't say the problem Drisa? He holds that that Moil Chumevi is kosher. And you mainly what? So you mainly, if that's the case that Moil Chumevi is kosher, so you maybe did the knife also with Chumevi. If you learn that the only way to do Malika is do it straight down, so say that's the problem with it. It's not shchita. Malika you didn't do because you didn't use your finger. Hell, I used the knife. But I used the knife in one shot. No. He says, no, maybe he didn't do one more shot. He went back and forth because Malika works back and forth. Manor says that he's going straight. I didn't say the idea that you're starting in the middle, you're like penetrating in between. Chalada means that you, like we mentioned before the example, you're sticking it into the neck, like from the front, which means it appears, so to speak, like a weasel, like an animal. It makes a little hole and goes in. The michatio, it's covered. Here, the knife goes straight from the top to the bottom. It's not going in the middle. Elamah, because the first mandama holds, let's say like Rashi says, you have two bones that are connected together. If I'm going in, it's like as if I'm squeezing in between. I'm not breaking it down straight. The other mandama says, I don't care. L'maisi, you're going from the top. Chalada means you're going from the middle. If I do have here's my question. You want to tell me that when a person breaks the neck and the meat, the animal is considered to be dead. There's nevela. How do you do melika? How does melika work? You take the bird and you break the neck, but the animal is dead before you finished it. Okay, let me ask you a question. We have a din, the oil soif we will see soon, and we saw it also in Meseches Vachim. You have to go and cut both simanim. It's not usually a bird is enough to cut one siman, but by oil soif you have to do two simanim. Now the tip is why a regular bird one siman is enough? Because by one siman it dies. So you're counting one siman, the bird is dead. Now you're counting another siman, it's already dead. Well, what's the point? Says the one saying, after it's dead, you finish. You're right. The bird is dead. But I have a din to do Avdallah. Avdallah means to completely separate the head from the body. So I need to continue the shechita.
Answer the question.
Well, what's that? Let me just finish it. Let's the sentence. Yachi or Nami. So if so why are you cutting only the two simonim and not the skin? You don't have to do Avdallah. Anything that is, the word says, the akev is like, it's part of the shechita. Like sibonim, each sibon is part of the shechita. It's ma'akev avdol. When you're doing a majority of the sibonim, it's good enough for kutar abanon. Who ma'akev avdol, avdol have to do both. Anything which is involved in the shechita, you have to do avdol. Two sibonim, yeah, involved in shechita. Kutar abanon can do roiv. We can do any roiv you want. But the oil is not involved in shechita. What do you say?
No, I'm saying we start off saying why do you have to do any siman, and then it jumps to oil. It says why do you have to do more than one siman?
No,
we already had a question about any siman.
No, that's siman. We said once you break the neck, the animal's dead.
So why do you have to do any siman?
Right. So
why is he jumping to oil?
No, so I'm saying Elamai, what do you want to tell me? So maybe when you break the neck, it's not dead. I want to prove you wrong. You said breaking the neck makes it dead. So therefore, it says, and it's already dead. If it's already dead, so why I'm doing simanim? Okay, so let's go with you. You hold the breaking neck is not considered to be dead.
Well, for sure, but
for sure, but simon is dead. Says the Gemara back to Chafal from Da Mikol Kashu. Now you ask me a question about sorry, but nice, you ask me a good question. You hold the milik that when you break the neck, the bird is dead. So what's the milik over here? This is what you should do. You break the spine, which means the top of the neck in this case. Umafrek is being breaking the spine and then the top of the neck. But loy rebaso, you don't take rebaso. Make sure that he cuts the neck without cutting the meat. So that's the answer. The only way it's dead, it's only if you're cutting the neck with most of the meat. But if I didn't cut most of the meat of that area, it's fine. You saw Rami saying that Shmuel, that we said that cutting the neck kills the bird. What are you doing Malik afterwards? So he was silent for a moment. He didn't know what to answer. He said, this is what you should do. He cuts the neck and the spine without the meat, and that's what you should do. How do you do Maliko? You do without most of the meat. Until you get to one of the simonim. One simon or the majority. For roy basoim, and now you're cutting the roy baso. Right? They do either two simonim or the roy shnaim. So they go mani. Which we'll see later. By oila, do you need to have both simonim or the majority? Answer number one. Mean shnaim or Rav Shnaim means shnaim looks like two because according to Rav Shimon, it's the reason why you don't do two because Rav is like the whole thing. So that was the side just to end what we said shnaim or Rav Shnaim. What do you see over here? That when you do meliko, you have to make sure not to cut the majority of the meat. Cut only a piece of the meat, and then immediately you can go down and cut the rest. So that's how the Gemara concludes regarding this. But this really idea of the meliko, it does kill. Rashi points out over here that when you the Gemara understands if it's treifel, why by treifel? If when we knew that breaking the neck makes the animal treifel, we just didn't know it's available. So Rashi says if it's treifel, how do you explain it? Also, when you broke the neck, you made a treifel. Says Rashi, that's always like that. When I go and I'm doing shechita of the simon. So when I cut half the simon, the animal is already half dead. But I did it. It's part of the ma'aseh shechita. Right before the animal completely died, it was already very sick. You made it almost, if you would stop 1 second before it completely died, it would die 10 minutes later. So it's already treifel. That's how ma'aseh shechita works. Ma'aseh shechita works, you're doing one big ma'aseh. Within the ma'aseh, the animal becomes sick. But we said it's not treifel. We said it becomes nevelo. Nevelo means it's going to be dead. Once it's dead, how can you go and do the meliko? You have to say, you have to make sure not to kill the bird before you get to the simon. We'll conclude over here. Beis Hashem continue from here tomorrow.
Who's checking everything's in perfect?